Okay, let me preface this review by saying that I totally understand how mine and some other Whovians' pre-broadcast apathy towards the return of Dr. Mysterio wasn't so much based on what the content of it was shaping up to be, so much as what we'd already been through. People like me always get accused of going into Doctor Who wanting to hate it, or expecting to hate it, which, yes, I do expect to. I haven't thought any of the Christmas specials were that great. There's been 10 of them by now. If that's not a pattern, I've no idea what is. But this special in particular has got a harder time of things to begin with because of what happened this year. Season 10 got delayed, presumably because they want the main series back in a spring slot to see if the last two series being aired in autumn to winter was what caused the ratings drop over the last couple of years. Which, no matter what excuses any fanboys out there are about to offer me on the ratings front, the high-ups at the BBC are going to be very concerned about that. And because of this, we've now got Hellbent and 2 Christmas specials back-to-back as the latest 3 episodes of New Who, and that's not exactly an encouraging streak. Hellbent seriously divided the fanbase, with many people hating it and calling it the final straw in a weak few years of a series being in desperate need of some change and fresh input. The episode directly after that, a Christmas special, and they never do anything new. And now we've got another Christmas special. All 3 of these being written by the same guy who's pretty divisive and usually does very samey things, particularly when it comes to the Christmas specials. Like, there's not exactly something wrong with me for carrying more than a little bit of baggage when going into the return of Dr. Mysterio. We are human. We are the sum of our past experiences. It is only natural to have certain thoughts about a thing before going in and watching the thing. I am only human, fanboys. What do you want from me? What do you want? Apart from me to stop making videos and go die in a fire. Not that bad, actually. Oh god, I thought the Christmas special was alright. Oh god, what does this mean? Yeah, as if 2016 wasn't already full of bad omens and a sign that the apocalypse is probably near. Like, I thought the Christmas special was alright. Oh god, what's happening? Oh god, my life's flashing before my eyes. Okay, while it's not something I'd call amazing and nothing to write home about, the return of Dr. Mysterio was certainly a major improvement over the last few specials. And that was a huge surprise for me in particular, as I was kind of put off by the premise because... do I say this? Okay, fuck it, I gotta say it. I don't really like superheroes that much. Yeah, I know, and no one's more bummed about that than me. Given superhero movies have pretty much eaten about 60% of everyone's free time, my channel could have been fucking huge by now. I could have just been spending the last few years doing endless videos needlessly discussing random tiny comic book references in the trailer for Crocodile Man versus Insane Clown or whatever. Write me your essays on why I'm wrong all you want. If I got little interest, I got little interest. Look, I used to like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies when I was a kid, but to be honest, I can take superhero stuff or leave it at this stage. So when I heard the Doctor Who Christmas special was going to be a cheesy superhero parody thing this year, I didn't really think much of it. It's like when Big Finish did that Doctor Who parody of Top Gear. If I've got no interest in the subject matter it's using as a jumping off point, I am not going to be the guy for this. And yet, while I didn't specifically like the return of Dr. Mysterio, the worst thing about it was easily the title. And I could see the appeal, and it's clear that they weren't just doing it for the sake of pandering to the popularity of Marvel and the second superhero boom, as some have asserted. It's a patchwork of cliches, yes. Shy, nerdy guy, wears glasses, is a superhero by night, is in love with this reporter lady who's pursuing his alter ego. But the superhero genre was almost entirely built around archetypes in the first place, so throwing around accusations of being nothing new here like I usually do would be a bit unfair in this instance. I mean, it's homage if nothing else. It's a tribute to a genre that the people behind it clearly have a lot of love for. Being derivative is its purpose. I saw some fans complaining that it looks a bit cheap and shoddy, and yeah, I agree, it does. The budget cuts the BBC have had lately are really starting to become a lot more blatant. But they've used that to their advantage. The way the shots are framed, the use of colours and set designs made the return of Dr. Mysterio look like an old-timey cheesy comic book that's playing out in live action. and it's the same kind of thing that was done on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and it's kind of adorable to me. That opening shot where we move in through the page of a comic book to emphasise that this is the style that they're going for was totally the right move in my opinion. If they hadn't done that, they might not have gotten away with it as well as they did. I guess the reason I appreciate the aesthetic and the homage is that it's made the episode feel like it has a purpose. It had a reason to exist, and the Doctor Who Christmas specials have been in dire need of that lately. Something that the Russell T specials got a lot of flack for at the time that I felt was really quite undeserved was that they supposedly weren't Christmassy enough. Which, to be honest, I've never understood this complaint at all. Yeah, because aside from being set at Christmas, featuring snow-covered landscapes and being big fluffy pantomimes, yeah, I had no idea these were Christmas specials. Come on, Russell, you Scrooge, throw some tinsel about. Seriously, there are so many more things you could sling at Voyage of the Damned before not being Christmassy enough. And then we had the Moffat Christmas specials, which over time amped up the Christmas elements, so much so that it started to feel as though they were episodes of Doctor Who that were about Christmas, as opposed to being Christmas episodes of Doctor Who, if you catch my drift. We had all of these generic Christmas-themed alien planets, self-referential jokes about it being Christmas. They all just started to blur into one for me, and it all just felt a bit hackneyed and tired, and by the time of the 10th Christmas special last year, totally pointless. I said last year in my Husbands of River song review that I didn't really know why they were still making Christmas specials if they were essentially just going to do simple generic balls of Christmas themed fluff every single time. In this one though, there's a couple of jokes right at the start about the Doctor possibly being Santa Claus, but there isn't that much mention of Christmas. It's about being a superhero pastiche, and that's what it does to the best of its ability. I really like that. If they'd actually done this with a genre or a subgenre I actually liked and had a lot more personal affection for in the first place, then we'd be getting somewhere. I found it to be similar in premise and drive to Mark Gatiss' Robot of Sherwood from Season 8. It's a sci-fi reappropriation of elements of another genre or specific media property, and while I'm not a fan as such, I admire the very obvious desire for the writer and or members of the production team to revisit the sort of intellectual properties they loved when they were kids with a sense of childlike wonder in their eyes. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting sickeningly wistful with age. Another thing that I liked was the weird plot about the people with guns in their heads and the brains in jars with eyes. It was stupid, yes, but it kind of reminded me of Steve Martin's Man with Two Brains, and I fucking adore that film. While it was a bit underdeveloped, and to me it felt as though a few scenes were probably cut for timing issues, I do appreciate what is here. It's a very surreal idea of having these conventional villains from a superhero movie wandering around and sliding their heads in half and holding people hostage. While I wouldn't say they're one of Moffat's best creations, I wouldn't mind if we revisited them in Season 10 and expanded on the backstory a bit more. It just adds to the whole dreamlike aura that the Christmas specials usually have anyway. The events are shown to us through a bizarre childlike lens, which I've had argued to me before is appropriate for a Christmas episode. But importantly in this case, as opposed to say Last Christmas from a couple of years ago, the storytelling in this one was actually pretty coherent. While it was weird and dreamlike, I could still tell what the fuck was going on at any one time, and there were no scenes that felt pointless and expendable to me. It didn't keep repeating stuff I already knew, it was a mostly tight little mini superhero movie with some fluff, but a penetrable plot and some pretty interesting bad guys. If the bad guys had had a bit more screen time, I'd probably be sounding a lot more enthusiastic about it. I thought the episode was decent, alright fanboys, leave me alone. Still, the stuff we had in place of more runtime surrounding our bad guys, i.e. the love story between Grant and Lucy, wasn't executed as horribly as I was expecting. Ever since Clara and Danny's love story in Season 8, I have had this massive sinking feeling whenever a Moffat script starts to approach romance, but the love story felt appropriate here because, as I said earlier, while yes it is a patchwork of cliches, that is kinda the point. It's done in a similar way to Peter Parker and Mary Jane from the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. It's cheesy, but I didn't think it was grating or off-putting. It was kind of adorable. I mean, yeah, it's not exactly anything new, deep, or life-affirming, but it did have me invested. Oh, another thing that surprised me was that this episode actually made me laugh on a fair few occasions. I was expecting standard jokes that have been made about the superhero genre for decades now, and they were in there. References to Clark Kent's really quite shit disguise. Grant does a really stupid voice when he's the Ghost, a la Christian Bale in the Nolan Batman movies. And yet there were a few clever jokes in there that I didn't see coming. While a lot of it was most assuredly cringy dad humour, the jokes were never forced or unnatural and usually got a smile out of me. Well, most of the time. Also, really surprised here, Nardole actually made me laugh occasionally. Some of his jokes didn't work, and I still really don't see that much point in bringing him back at all. In fact, there was a mildly fourth wall breaking moment where he actually acknowledges that his presence in the episode is purely because the Doctor might get lonely, and I still don't really feel like there's that much depth to him. It's still pretty much just, he is a quirky and silly bald man. But he did make me laugh occasionally, I will concede that. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say this time. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. Fuck, this is weird. While it's not really my thing, I find the fact the return of Dr. Mysterio was a bit different to regular Doctor Who Christmas fare really encouraging, and I'm actually feeling a lot more positive about the oncoming Season 10 now. They've listened to some of the criticism the past specials got, and they've built on it. This Christmas, they didn't hold themselves to this strangely demanding idea that the Christmas special must be as rainbow-vomitingly Christmas-related as humanly possible. There was clearly a lot more leniency granted on the storytelling front. It's a jolly little Christmas pantomime that's not too self-indulgent. We just let Moffat get his toys out and play around in a sandbox. And it was actually kind of endearing for a change. Nothing wrong with that. But next up we got Season 10, a new character to get me to care about, and 12 episodes for 12 and Moffat to go out on. That is where the real battle begins.